Everyone, welcome to another edition of the Right Way Wednesday. Today I have back with me Lori Bunch. Lori, if you watched the video last week that I reposted from 2019, so about a year ago, actually a little over a year ago now, we talked and got together about some tips for rehab directors and program managers on how to really sort of manage your day, given everything that you have to do in a day, which is a lot, right? So you've got operational stuff plus clinical stuff. You're managing other clinicians too, and schedules and all those kinds of things. And so I thought, as I went back and watched that video, Lori, that we did last year, I really thought, God, that was such a great perspective from someone who is out in the field right now. And then I started thinking, man, a lot has changed, right, with COVID and everything that we're dealing with, on top of all of the normal, quote unquote, nothing's normal anymore, but normal day-to-day stuff that a rehab director or a clinician even has to sort of get accomplished. And so I thought it would be good. And Lori thankfully agreed to get back together because Lori is now in a different position with us. She's been promoted, because she was so awesome as a rehab director, to a regional manager now. And so I feel like this brings a new perspective to what's kind of going on, and how she sort of helped her teams sort of get through all of this to date. And so, Lori, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So tell me a little bit, because, I mentioned this in the post on Wednesday or last week about, some of the things we talked about really we may not be able to do today, just logistic wise. So talk to us a little bit about what's changed since we last talked and what has stayed the same.
So, on the last call that we had a year ago, definitely I touched on some of the simple things that I would say organize throughout my day, keeping an ongoing to-do list. Those things are still in place. But I think with COVID moving in and just totally taking over our therapy world, we had to re-strategize on ways that we did treatment, documentation, modes of treatment, all the things. So, first I can say just the pretty much shutting the doors of our therapy departments and being forced outside those doors and really focusing on functional room treatments. And, I often joked around, what would we do if that day ever came and those dumbbells were taken away from us, or that recumbent bike was taken away from us, and here we are. It's a bittersweet thing, because I do feel like it's definitely challenged us for being creative with our treatment ideas. And, Health Pro has provided throughout this whole COVID time just great resources for us to tap into on a regular basis. So anytime any of my RDs are struggling, we just revisit that resource. And, it not only sets up their treatment for today, but they can already be thinking, what functional treatment am I going to be doing for tomorrow? So it's been a great resource. And then go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I remember, you talked about you were sort of used to think about what would happen if they just closed the doors and we didn't have the equipment anymore. I know we used to at one point, or I did when I was a regional, sort of challenge my teams to put away specific pieces of equipment that they used a lot. To try to figure out what else to do in order to get that same thing accomplished in a more functional way. And it was a great, it was a great sort of challenge for the teams. And sometimes it was more difficult than others. But I think what we've seen as we've moved towards these more functional treatments, or have been forced to do that, we haven't really seen outcomes get worse, right? We've seen them either be the same or in many cases get better, right? Because of what we're doing. Yeah. So I think bittersweet is probably a good term to use, because we like all those tools, but I think we can really get a lot accomplished too without them in many cases. So So what else do you think?
So as we know, with PDPM, group and concurrent was a huge focus of ours, and once again, Health Pro just putting out such great resources, and we were flowing. We were operating and just providing great services that our patients needed with the group and concurrent. And then all of a sudden, the majority had halted or very limited with the group and concurrent. So once again, just Health Pro providing those resources on ways that we can provide group and concurrent when appropriate, and just giving us really clinical reasons. A lot of it educational pieces toward some of our COVID-related patients, their conditions and their diagnosis, providing those type of groups, or home going, and just really focusing on safety, giving us access to get up and get connected so that we can see those homes through a lens, and help make the recommendations for them returning home. So another great tool for us as we begin to reopen, and one day we'll get back to where we were. But again, I think just slowing down and really focusing on what's best for the resident. Sometimes group and concurrent's not, but sometimes it is. And truly for those patients, as long as we're social distancing and we can provide them with what they need in that social setting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So any other tips that you can give directors out there who might be struggling with managing just the stress of everything they had to do on top of what they have to do now for COVID and managing the pandemic and infection control and all of that stuff too?
Mm-hmm. So I feel like, and even a year ago when we talked, we really honed in on relinquishing control of your day and feeling good about what you provided throughout the day, and how you found your balance between being a rehab director and a clinician. So I think continuing at a time of COVID when the facility might increase their expectations on you as the RD or the therapy department for involvement on the floor, sometimes not appropriate. I mean, we really have to reel in those reins. We can present information gracefully, and we can set those boundaries, and we can maintain our focus on our quality of our patient care and operating and running a therapy department. Probably one strong aspect that definitely my RDs have taken a look at is with utilizing a rehab tech, where back in the day before COVID, we used them a lot for transport. And I really encouraged the ones that can take on administrative tasks to do so, to help alleviate some of the stress and strain on the rehab director. So we've definitely delegated tasks like that to appropriate people, and I think it's helped find balance throughout the days of the RDs. They've really stepped up, and I feel like they've become even more valuable support to our RDs than they were before pre-COVID.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. Another question that just popped into my head, as you were talking about this, now that you're a regional and you're working with rehab directors and helping them through this process, do you have maybe a rehab director that maybe struggled with this for a little while at first that you kind of helped through? And, what are some strategies that you worked with them on to get past any of those barriers that they might have been dealing with?
Yeah, so I support one of our RVPs, her division also, so I kind of tap into some of those. But I do have a few of my own facilities where my rehab directors have definitely stepped up. I feel like in, of course, some of our facilities, we have a high prevalence, or we've had waves of high prevalence of COVID patients. And I will tell you, those are the times that I feel like we as regionals can be most supportive, because we're helping strategize, we're helping develop plans. Unfortunately, facilities not always on board with the way that we feel like things should go. So whether it's skilling in place or, I just encourage my RDs to maintain focus and do what's right for the resident. So if the facility is not willing to skill in place, we still need to look at therapy services to help support that patient. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming to talk to me today. I think this was great. Hopefully our viewers out there heard something that was very helpful to them. I know it's great to get your perspective, being out in the field like you are and working with those who are living it every day. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Nicole. We'll see ya.
Bye.